Good morning. Good morning. We're live. It is May 29th, 2020. And we're here for Friday morning vinyasa flow, which means we are going to do a lot of bending and folding and core strengthening, glute firing. It's going to be good. So I will pause just for a moment and allow anyone who was waiting for the live stream to begin to hop on here. If you're joining later in the day, you're not here live, awesome to have you. Thank you for making time whenever you are. And yeah, while I'm waiting, and anyone who's with me is waiting with me, let's just begin by settling in. So find comfortable standing position on your yoga mat. If you have a pair of blocks, make sure that those are handy if you like to use them. And I also have some water behind me for any water breaks, but not a lot needed here, which is why I love yoga. Pretty simple. Even if you don't have any of these things, you can just still stand in place wherever you are and join me here. So comfortable standing position. Let's just take a moment here to settle into where we are, present moment, with some deep breathing. Don't worry right now too much about your posture and alignment and all those things. We're just going to first find our breath, let our breath find us. So close your eyes here. Inhale, nice deep breath, and exhale. Inhale here, and exhale. And keep that up, inhale and exhale, and just watch your mind for a moment. If it is a little scattered, like mine is, frankly, from what it took for you to arrive here for your practice, whether that's fiddling with technology or looking for a pair of pants you couldn't find or having family members and pets find something to entertain themselves for this moment while you take some time for your practice. Any of those things that just happened, acknowledge all of that, acknowledge anything that came before that led you here, that it's going to be on your mind a bit, and then try to let it go and just tell yourself, I've made it, I'm here now. Eyes still closed, really still thinking about breathing. And when you exhale, think about what maybe is to come, and your mind may be on that too. The rest of your to-do list for the day, or what you may have going on this weekend, and acknowledge that your mind will go there as well, but try to bring it back whenever it does. So just think about on these inhales, what maybe came before, and let your mind go to it, and then bring it back and say, I've made it here. I can let go of what came before. And some exhales, on those exhales, think about, yeah, I have stuff coming up. I have things on my to-do list. There are a lot of unknowns, not only for the rest of the day, but for the next few weeks and months and years, right? It's all unknown. And it can cause a little stress, a little anxiety, a little anticipation, all those things. And all those are normal and fine. But you can also let them go with your exhales to say, I'll deal with that when it comes. So eyes closed, we inhale, acknowledge what has been, and then let it go. And on the exhale, acknowledge that we've got stuff coming, but we let that go too. And the more you practice that muscle of your mind to return to the present moment, the more automatic it will become. If you find yourself stuck in the past or revving up towards the future. So that's what I mean by connecting with the breath and just finding ourselves in this moment here. Great. I already feel a little more present and ready to lead you in this hour of vinyasa. So blink open the eyes if you have them shut. We're going to start to incorporate some movement with that breath. So still deep breathing, inhale through the nose. Try to give it a count of 5 or 6. Same with the exhale. And now we are going to do big movements, but just little subtle things. And I'd like you to just notice what that breath does to your body, to your physical body, because you'll use that kind of guideline as we move through the rest of the postures. So just notice when you inhale that you begin to create a lift from your belly all the way up to your chest. Your chest begins to lift, maybe puffs out a bit, broadens with an inhale. You lengthen, you may feel some lengthening, like you're growing taller with the top of your head going towards the ceiling. All in this inhale, it's a lengthening and a filling and a broadening. And then when you exhale, you let all that go. And notice whether or not you can bring attention down to your feet for some grounding. And that exhale just leaves your body and helps kind of collapse. Instead of that lifting and broadening, we get a collapse in a good way, a wringing out and a centering down the straight line to the core. And if you push enough air out, you can really even feel it come from the pit of your belly. That air goes out. And we inhale it back in and fill it up all again and grow tall and broaden and lift. And then we exhale. We feel it contract and everything retract down into the center line, all the way the pit of your belly, your groin, maybe all the way through your feet as you feel them get heavy on the mat. So we haven't even done any big movements yet, but you can kind of feel the way the breath naturally shapes your body and encourages it to move. And when we add bigger movements, you still go by those guidelines. So now let's practice some of those bigger movements that I'm talking about by incorporating arms into this. So you inhale and lift those arms up and just feel the breath as you think about lift and broadening the chest with the breath. Also think of lifting now at the arms and exhale and let them drop down, and think of some grounding coming through your palms all the way down to the ground, down to your feet. And then inhale and lift and exhale and ground down. So you're flapping your bird wings here. Inhale, lift. Lift now as much as you've got. Think of lifting out of the waist, separating the waist from the hips. That's what I mean by lift out of the waist, and then ground down. So on this final grounding down, just bend the knees a little. I already got a little pop in one of my ankles, just bending the knees a little, and then straighten the legs, inhale the arms back up. And then exhale, bend the knees just a little more, a little deeper, and feel that stretch along the back of your ankles and your lower calves. And inhale, lift. Now hold here and just breathe. Hold your arms high. Your chest is proud and broad. And hang right here and really feel that lift that I'm talking about out of the waist. This is the side body I'm talking about, a line down from your armpit to where your hips, the top of your hips, connect with your waist here. That's your side body. And I want you to feel that lift. You'll notice when I teach a lot, I take my own hand and feel the spot I'm talking about in my body, just to really make that connection. That's the side body. So we're going to stretch it out a little more by grabbing the left wrist with the right hand, step the left foot behind the right, and give yourself a side stretch to the right, pulling on that left hand towards the right. And with that left foot behind your right, you get extra stretch going on down the side of the hip, all along the side up to the armpit. And let's switch here. Bring the foot back around, feet parallel. Now we'll grab the right wrist with the left hand, right foot steps behind left, and we'll do a side body stretch to the other side. Breathe here. Really focus on the side rather than front or back. And you can do that by making sure your hips and shoulders are square to the front. And that will help really get into the side body. Okay, let's bring it back to center. Let's do it one more time, a little faster here. So we'll inhale, and on the inhale, step and stretch, and on the exhale, push those hips a little more out towards the opposite side of the arms. And then inhale, straighten, still on the inhale, step, stretch, exhale, push the hips more to the side. Okay, great. Let's inhale, arms overhead, and we'll get into some of those folds. So stay facing the front if you want. I'm going to turn to the side just so you can see where we're folding. A lot of times when we fold, and I mean, it goes back to when we were taught to touch our toes in gym class back in elementary school. When we do it, we begin the rounding up at the upper spine and the neck and round the upper back, and that's how we begin a fold. We don't want to do that. It's a habit that has taken us away from the proper way to the technique to fold using a hip hinge. So we want to keep spine straight, no rounding and no leading with the neck. We're going to do a hip hinge to fold. So that will require a slight bend in the knees. So give your knees, just give them a bend and a straighten a couple times. Slight bend in the knees, but I know the other thing we've been taught is to bend over and pick something up by bending completely at the knees and keeping the spine straight. That's not the type of knee bend I'm talking about either. I'm talking about just a micro bend in the knees, which begins to create a crease in the hips, and the booty goes back and spine stays straight. So let's try that a few times. If you need to find that hip hinge using your hands, find where your hips meet your pelvis and it creates a kind of V down towards your groin. Find that spot with your hands if you need to. Rest them in there and be sure to push back in that spot to send the booty back and spine stay straight. So we are not rounding from the top and we're not deeply bending at the knees. We are hip hinging and sticking the butt back. So I'm going to grab my blocks here. Just, I haven't gone even to touch my toes yet. I'm just grabbing my blocks and doing a bit of a hip hinge here to come down about halfway and then lift it back up. So just begin to warm up your folds that way. Just down and up. And if you don't have blocks, just rest your hands on your upper thighs, or you can bring them down to your shins. And just a little down and up, back and forth. Notice if one leg is tighter than the other. And finally, as you're working and beginning to warm up with this hip hinge, think of pulling your belly in, belly button in and back, especially as you bend over. Belly button in allows us to open the lower back up and stretch out lower back by pulling belly button in, booty goes back. Okay, so how do we incorporate this with the breath? Inhale, and that gives you your lift and prepares you to fold. Exhale, fold, push the air out, pull the belly in. So inhale all the way up. Exhale, fold, pull the belly in, find that halfway point down. Okay, so I'm going to turn back around and we're just going to do a few sets of folds using the breath and the arms. We're adding on, we just, in this vinyasa class, I like to add on, we work on one step and then we just bring another component into it. So we're going to do that with the arm movements that we began with. Began with breath, then arms, then we add our legs here. So let's begin with arms in prayer at heart center. Stand here. We're in Tadasana. Tadasana is the standing posture that we begin in. Remember now we inhale, arms up, those wings go up, we expand, lift, inhale up, Exhale, bring the arms down, flap those wings down, send the booty back, and you're at the halfway fold here. Inhale, arms up, legs straighten. Look up if you want. Exhale, halfway fold. One more. Inhale, arms up, look up, lift the chest. Exhale, send the booty back, bring the belly in, halfway fold. Stay here. Rest your hands on your blocks or your shins and pedal out the legs. So what I mean by that is bend one knee at a time. Let the hips shift back and forth. You see my hips behind me going from one side to the other as I pedal out the legs. Find a neutral position in this halfway lift, and then we're gonna, for the first time, really deepen the fold. The first time this morning, deep fold here by bending from your halfway lift. I'll turn to the side. From your halfway lift, bend the knees as deeply as you need to as you lower your belly down onto those knees. So now if you want, you could warm up even with a squat down all the way, or just come halfway down like I am. But the belly is resting on the knees, and they need to bend as deeply as possible to make that happen. Let your head and neck drop once your belly is resting on your knees. Head and neck drop, hips shoot up towards the ceiling. So hips up, head and neck relaxed. Belly button is pulled in and belly is glued to the upper thighs. So just hang out here and make sure your head and neck are relaxed by nodding your head yes and shaking it no. And if you'd like to pedal out legs here, you can start to straighten one at a time. I'll turn back around for a couple of different views. There went that pop in my other ankle. You're going to hear some cracks and pops possibly in your ankles, knees, hips as we warm up. Okay, so we're down in this forward fold. We're going to inhale, halfway lift. Exhale one more time for a fold. Inhale, arms all the way up, reverse swan dive. Exhale, bring hands back to heart center. So let's go through that one more time the whole way through with that fold. And we'll call this first part of sun salutations good. We'll add on to that next. So inhale, arms overhead. Lift the chest, look up. Exhale, swan dive down all the way to that forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms all the way up, reverse swan dive. Exhale, bring them down to heart center. So that was a great warm up with a lot of forward folds there. I know when I first start teaching this beginning, that's part one. I think of that as part one to sun salutations. People are always surprised that there is so much detail in the things you can pay attention to just to fold, lift, bring your arms overhead. But the more you pay attention to those details, the better it feels and the more it informs the healthy habits that you create in your body for the rest of the day. Okay, so let's add on to those forward folds with part two of the sun salutation, the Chaturanga Dandasana. And that will begin to, with the forward folds, we get a lot of great folds and bringing in of the belly. When we move into Chaturanga, we're going to start to add some back bending into the postures. So come to the top of your mat so that you can use the length of the mat, and whether that's with the mat facing the screen or facing to the side, as like I'm doing, is up to you. Let's begin in Tadasana, hands at heart center, standing position. We're going to inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. On the exhale, bend the knees, plant the hands down by the feet, and step back into plank. So we're holding plank here, nice and strong, and we're going to rock out over our toes back and forth to feel a nice stretch in the ankles You can bend the knees and pedal them out. Drop one knee at a time if you want. So bend the knees and rock back and forth on the toes. Just go back and forth to feel a stretch out in the ankles and the back of the calves. And then if you want to add hips into this, you can rock the hips side to side as well. So we're just kind of stretching it out and moving it around in plank. Okay, so let's hold plank here. And I'd like you to shift forward a few inches over your fingertips and press the pads of your fingertips into that mat so that not all the weight is in your wrist. Feel some of it in your fingertips as well. Shift forward 2 inches over those fingertips. Bend at the elbows and just lower down all the way to your belly. And make sure when you lower down that your elbows haven't flapped open, that they're tucked in, kind of like tucking your bird wings in there towards one another and alongside your ribs. So you're on your belly now. Shift your hands forward so that you're propped up on elbows and arms are parallel for Sphinx pose. And so here is where we begin a bit of a back bend. Chest is lifted, shoulders drop away from your ears. Press your forearms down into the mat. This is Sphinx. So just hold here. Feel this back bend. It's the counter to the forward folds. This is why sun salutations are so great. There's a counter movement built into them so that we've got forward folds, but we also have back bends here. And then go ahead, lower down, push up back on your hands onto your knees for child's pose. So knees are spread apart the width of the mat. Toes can come together behind you and send your hips back into child's pose. Press those palms and fingertips into the mat once more to make this an active child's pose. So press them in, which lifts your forearms off the mat. Forehead can come down comfortably on the mat, but just engage those hands, and that creates an opening in the armpits. If you'd like to rock back and forth, side to side, feel that open in the armpits. And here for a moment, just notice the hip crease that is created in child's pose, the same place that we hinge at the hips. That crease is really deeply emphasized right now. And if you take note of it, it just helps you to become aware more of where that hinge motion happens in your hips. Okay, so come on up to hands and knees from child's pose. And then step one more time into plank. When I say Chaturanga Dandasana, that is the point at which we go from plank, shift forward a bit on our fingertips, lower down, and you can come down halfway or all the way to your belly. If you come halfway down, you can bring your chest through for up dog. If you go lower all the way down, before we lowered all the way down, came up into Sphinx. You can also just leave your hands under your shoulders and inhale, peel up for Cobra. So when we go through sun salutations, just remember you have options going from plank to either lower halfway down and then send it through for up dog, always keeping your elbows tucked in together by your ribs. The other option from plank is to lower all the way down. Keep hands under your shoulders and lift for Cobra, or bring hands out, come up on your elbows for Sphinx. Those are all the options in Chaturanga Dandasana. So let's go ahead, push yourself up, and we're going through our sun salutations really slowly here. It's kind of an in-depth tutorial in sun salutations this morning. So we've worked through the folds and Chaturanga Dandasana. So that's part 1 and 2 of a sun salutation. Let's go through those together, and then we'll add part 3, and that will be our sun salutation practice for the morning. So come together standing, hands at heart center for Tadasana. Inhale, swipe into the knees, arms overhead. Look up if you'd like. Exhale, swan dive, hip hinge, forward fold, all the way down, and then inhale, come up to the halfway lift, legs straighten, belly pulled in. Exhale, step back into plank. And on that same exhale, you lower down to your limit. Inhale, up dog, cobra, or sphinx. Come onto hands and knees and go ahead and just walk your feet back up to your hands. Halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms all the way up. Exhale, hands at heart center. So, great. Parts 1 and 2 of the sun salutation. Let's add part 3, which gets us into down dogs. We'll move through. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step back into plank, chaturanga dandasana. Lower all the way down or halfway down, your choice. Inhale, up to cobra, sphinx or up dog. And on the exhale, push yourself back to hands and knees. Hands and knees here, knees are under hips. Hands are planted under your shoulders. Press into the pads of your fingers. Feel the mat under your knees, and now flip the toes. Come up onto your toes. And push up through your toes so that your knees hover off the ground just a few inches. With belly pulled in and knees and heels off the mat, lift those hips towards the ceiling as you press in with your palms and fingertips. And feel an opening in the armpits. Heels are high, knees are high, hips are high. And when you've reached a real opening in the armpits there, with belly button pulled in, suck it in, go ahead now and begin to let the heels drop down towards the mat one at a time. So it's kind of a pedaling out with hips high, armpits open, power pressing through the hands, and let the heels come down as you find your down dog. So pedal it out, make adjustments, rock hips side to side if you need to. Make sure the head and neck are relaxed by nodding the head yes, shaking it no. And your gaze is either down at the mat or between your legs, looking towards the back. Eyes are open though. Let's inhale here together. Nice and deep breath. And exhale. On the next inhale, come up, back off your heels, shift your weight forward over your hands, and just tiptoe those toes up to the front of the mat. Halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, arms to heart center. So we've worked through every stage of sun salutation. We're going to put those 3 parts together now and move through. Let's do 2 more. And by the second one, we're really just going to go at the pace of our own breathing, which will speed it up just a bit and add a little increase to our heart rate. So standing comfortably in Tadasana, hands at heart center. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step back into plank, chaturanga dandasana. And push it back into down dog. We'll take a few breaths here so that you can kind of adjust and get comfortable in down dog. Let's take one more deep breath together. Inhale. Exhale. On the next inhale, come up high on your toes and shift forward, and then just tiptoe your toes up to meet your hands. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. One more nice, strong sun salutation. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, chaturanga dandasana. So plank, shift forward a bit to lower yourself down. You choose your back bend, choose your own back bend adventure, and then shoot back into down dog. Coming through hands and knees first if you want. If it really helps, I think it does, to come hands and knees and hover those knees. Keep the heels high as you shift hips back. Drop the heels and begin to straighten the legs. But don't worry about having heels on the mat or legs perfectly straight in down dog. Think more about just having hips high to the ceiling and an opening in your armpits. Nice deep breath here. On your next inhale, shift the weight forward. As you exhale, tiptoe, tiptoe, tiptoe. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive, arms overhead. And exhale, bring hands to heart center. Great, good warm up with sun salutations. Stop here, take a sip of water. Happy to have whoever has joined me this morning, thank you. And we'll do 2 balancing postures next, now that we've got those sun salutations out of the way. Okay, for our balancing postures this morning, we're going to do 2 postures that are both balances, but otherwise they're sort of having the opposite effect on our bodies. The first one is going to be eagle, which is a contraction and a pulling in down the center line of the body. So we're going to bring everything in, arms and legs and energy. And the other one is warrior 3, which the opposite effect with warrior 3 is that it's really going to be an opening. We're going to have hands out and legs out and an opening. So it's really nice to counter one type with the other, plus we're going to get the balance work that we need. So also uses core strength. So a lot is happening there. Core strength, leg strength, balance, focus with a relaxed energy. So a relaxed focus, it's going to be good. Let's begin with eagle. So face the front, come to the middle of the mat, just standing. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, bring the left arm under the right and just wrap your arms around one another. Give yourself a hug here to start. So you've just got your elbows stacked on one another and you're going to hug it out, rock it back and forth. So if you practice with me normally on Mondays and Wednesdays, you're used to the Bikram eagle, where we wrap from here. You can hang on to the self-hug or begin to wrap hands together as ropes. So we're going to do the same thing for this vinyasa eagle, but there is going to be one difference here. I'm standing with feet together, hips square, begin to wrap those arms like ropes. And in the Bikram eagle, we bring the elbows down and really drop the shoulders way down towards the center line and into the waist. For vinyasa eagle, it takes a little more work in the shoulder mobility the opposite way. You're going to lift the elbows and they may even come up to, say, chin level. So play with that and find what's comfortable for you. If you want to stick with the Bikram arms that are elbows drawn down towards your midsection and shoulders really dropped away, stay there. If you want to try something different this morning, if you're used to doing it the other way, go ahead and lift them. So just play up and down, whichever way you want. So our left arm is under the right. We're going to do the opposite thing with the legs. So sit back on the right foot, which is going to be your standing foot. Hips are square, sitting back, and bring the left knee up. Left knee up towards the left elbow. If you can touch knee to elbow, try it. It's really great core work to just tap knee to elbow. But the point is to get the leg as high as you can before you cross it over, legs cross left over right. And either keep the thighs pressed together, crossed right here, drop the toes if you want on the left, or keep those toes lifted and begin to sneak your left toes around the back of the right calf. So, you know, there are a lot of options again. Some of you may look like left arm wrapped under right in that self hug, and you get as far as maybe standing on your left foot and just crossing, or I'm sorry, standing on the right foot and crossing the left to maybe look something like this. This is an eagle pose too. All we're working on is trying to cross elbows and knees over one another and then have them in one line down the center of the body, hips, shoulders square. This can be an eagle. You can take the arms, wrap them, either pull them down in or lift them up. Those can be eagle arms. Sitting back by bending that right knee looks like eagle, and taking it all the way to create the bind, the full bind, toes around the calves. So there's so many options, and eagle can look so many different ways. It is a balancing posture, and really once you find what works for you, take some deep breaths, hold comfortably a relaxed balance, and think of squeezing it all into the center line of the body. And then let that go when you've had enough. Let it all go. Bring the hands out, walk the feet out. You just asked your right leg to do a lot, standing on it and having it support all of that. So walk it out, and then we'll prepare for eagle on the other side. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, right arm under left this time. So give yourself that nice hug. Open it up by rocking side to side. Remember, you can stay right here. If you'd like to take the arms, wrap them in that rope shape. Go ahead. At this point, it can look like elbows are crossed and forearms are crossed and maybe hang here. Press that together, or continue to wrap and let the palms find one another. And again, squeeze it down and in if you'd like towards the midsection, or experiment with lifting and bringing it up, a different kind of opening in the shoulders. Once you've warmed up there, you're going to sit back. This time we're going to be asking our left leg to be the foundational standing leg. So spread those left toes, really ground the left foot down into the mat. Bend at the left knee. And bring the right knee up. Right knee, if it can touch that lower right elbow, give it a tap. Otherwise, just bring it as high as you can before you cross it over the left. And again, it looks different for everyone. So on this side, it may look something like this. And if you want to take it further, just keep working through all those stages and find what works for you. And each side is going to be different. So I'm going to continue to wrap the arms, lift them up away from the chest rather than pulling them back in. Sink back on the left leg, and with my knee as high as I can get it, cross left over right. And either drop the toes for the kickstand, which will help you bring your hips down and hips and shoulders square. And then if you want to take it further from there, find the bind with right toes wrapped around left knee. If that causes you to go sideways with the knees, pull them back to center line and come out of it a bit. If you don't have the ability to find that bottom toe wrap and keep knees and hips straight, just come out of it. It's not there yet. Wherever you find your eagle, just breathe. Try to stay relaxed, and then let it go. Inhale, arms up. The left leg is feeling it this time. Walk it out. Take a sip of water, and we'll move into the other balancing posture, warrior three. Okay, so for warrior three, we're going to come to the back of the mat. This is also balancing stick in Bikram. So you might be familiar with it being called balancing stick. It just, the only difference, I'll explain some differences that we can do with our hands, but it's all the same idea. So inhale, arms overhead. Step forward. Let's step forward with our right foot, which is the opposite of what we do Mondays and Wednesdays, but we're going to just change it up since this is a new style of practice. And with arms overhead, belly pulled in, Plant down on that right foot. Again, nice and strong. Anytime you have one strong standing leg in a balance, spread the toes and ground the foot down from heel to the ball of your foot and find that strong foundation. So with arms overhead, come up high on the back left toes, and you can stay right here. And you can see how this in itself is the opposite take with your limbs that we do in eagle. We're opening now. We're opening up through the chest, through the belly and groin, opening, lifting the arms, and the legs will come apart. So you can stay right here. This is your warrior three. Just standing strong on your right leg, left leg behind you, arms overhead. And to get into the balance, steady gaze straight ahead and begin to lift off those back lifted toes, and as you lift, your upper body lowers. So think of lifting, using the glute. The left glute lifts the leg and the heel lifts towards the ceiling. Arms overhead, and if you want to take them out, this is where it does differ from Bikram. You can take them out and sort of soar with arms out at your side or arms overhead, whichever you prefer, and just practice standing on that strong right leg, lifting the left, using the glute in the left to lift, heel towards the ceiling, and arms spread. I am next to a wall, and if you are too, that can feel really safe to just kind of come down, feel the wall, and then work on your balance once more. And I'm going to take it just a little further here for myself. If you want to join me, feel free. Get a little more stretch from warrior three, balance, to come all the way down and lower the chest towards the mat for standing splits. So now we've gotten away from balance because I am resting on my fingertips, but I'm just feeling the need to stretch it out a little more. Hips stay square to the mat the whole time. This is not a hip opener. So this is not turning hips open and sending the foot behind you. It's keeping hips square in standing splits. Come back through warrior three and bring it all in together at the back of the mat. Awesome work on that right leg. Give it a little pat. Walk your legs out if you need to. And then we'll move forward to warrior three with the left standing leg. So step forward on the left foot this time. Spread those toes, ground, heel, ball the foot, everything into the mat. Inhale, arms overhead. And this can be your warrior three right here. Just standing strong on your left foot with your right toes behind you so that hardly any weight is coming in your right foot. In fact, you can lift the toes just a bit off the mat to make sure that left standing leg is strong. Arms overhead. So here is a warrior three. If you want to keep going with the balance, continue to lift. That glute on the right side is fired up because I'm using the glute to lift the leg, lift the heel towards the ceiling. This sends my chest down and arms are overhead or out to the side, or a combination of both if you want to keep it active and dynamic. Breathe here. Steady gaze. Keep your eyes focused and not looking down too far. You want them to just have with a neutral neck, just have your gaze straight in front of you. So it can be looking towards the front wall or the front of the room in front of you. But as you lower down, it begins to shift down really softly and slowly. And like I did on the other side, I'm going to take this into standing splits by dropping my hands. Keep hips square to the mat. Yes, my left leg is shaking. It's good. Shaking's good. We're working hard. And just keep hips square. Lift that right heel. Extra stretch here. Okay, and wherever you were, I'm going to come back through and come back from a balanced position. Everything to the back of the mat. Hands down, let out a breath. That was a lot of work. Take a sip of water and we'll move down to the floor. Okay, so let's go ahead and get down onto the floor via pigeon. So just from a standing position at the back of your mat, go ahead and come down to hands and knees. We're gonna push up just briefly in a down dog, so you don't need to make a lot of those extra adjustments. Just push through your hands, straighten the legs, come up in a quick down dog, and then inhale, bring the left leg up, and then bring it through, knee through under your body towards your left wrist, left knee towards the left wrist, and then just set your foot down on the mat and begin to open up here in pigeon. Keep hips square to the mat, and your left foot may need to angle. There may be an angle from your knee to your foot as it comes towards the hips, and you keep hips square. So a lot of people here like to recline into sleeping pigeon by just relaxing down, lowering down over that leg, and resting forehead on hands. So go into sleeping pigeon now if that's one that you love. I'm gonna stay up in proud pigeon because I'm just really working on opening up my hips. And this is an extra challenge for me. And then, of course, if you want to take other versions of pigeon, including bending that right knee and finding a bind behind you with your right hand on right knee. I'm not sure if I really have it today, so I'm going to let that go and just work on this proud pigeon. Very simple first step. Eventually, if you want to think of this ankle and heel coming out and being at a straight line from your knee, that is really what I'm working towards, and I'm not there yet, so that's why I stay lifted and don't go into sleeping pigeon. Okay, so we'll push on out of that, bring the left knee through, come up on hands and knees again, and into a quick down dog. Not a lot of adjustments needed here. We're just going in a down dog to send the left or right foot up. Bring the right knee under the body, right knee to right wrist, and we'll work pigeon on the other side, which for me is the tighter side. So hold pigeon here. If you take sleeping pigeon and you want to do it on this side, go ahead, just be mindful about how you come down, lower down, forehead rests on forearms. This side's even tighter for me, so I've got even more of an angle going from my knee to my ankle on the right side. Okay, and we'll go ahead and back out of that by bringing the right leg through, hands and knees, and then just come around to a seated position. We're going to do separate leg stretching, seated separate leg stretching. Let's start with the left leg out, right foot in, and stay right here if you want. This can be a tremendous stretch for some people, just to stay right here. Take your inner left thigh, if you want, with your left hand, and think of externally taking that tissue in the inner thigh and externally rotating it around towards the back, towards the outside. That can be a great stretch in itself. And then just come up so that you're sitting on both sit bones equally. You may have to make adjustments to make that happen. Stay right here, or there are a couple options. You can stay here. You can get a side body stretch in by coming along from the left side, sliding down that left leg and opening up the right side. And now I've got a major side body stretch happening down my right hip. So stay there. Think of lifting your chest towards the ceiling, even looking up at the ceiling to get that side body stretch. And the other option is to fold right over the leg. And if you do that, you want a little micro bend in the knee, hinge at the hip. and come down with the chest first before you grab onto whether it's your calf or thigh or toes. Just think of hinging at the hip and having your chest square towards your knee. And then make it dynamic if you want by opening up and exhaling down. So lots of options here. Figure out what you need this morning, what works for you, and then let's switch it over. Switch legs so that the right leg is out, left foot is in. And again, I'm going to take that tissue with my hands and manually kind of on the inside of my right thigh here, lift it and kind of encourage it to externally rotate towards the back, even as I come back around, and make sure I'm centered and square on those sit bones. Stay right here. If you want to follow me into what we did on the other side, I'm going to inhale and lift as always, right? And then on an exhale, come down, feeling the side body stretch by keeping my chest square to the front or even a slight opening towards the ceiling. So I feel that great stretch along my left hip now. And if I want to change the stretch here and move more into my right hamstring, I rotate, turn chest towards the knee, lift the knee a bit, bend it, and bring chest on the knee. Make it dynamic by opening and folding. And the open and lift happens on an inhale, and the fold on an exhale. Okay, so let's go ahead and take both legs out now and work on these front straddle splits. So just bring both legs out straight as far as you can. My goal currently is just to have my heels towards the corner edges of my mat. Whatever works for you. If you want to bring legs together and have them in like a pike out together in front of you, that's a hamstring stretch, and then just open it to whatever extent that you can. Sit back comfortably on your sit bones, so just shift your weight all back so that you're not bent over the legs, but we're just sitting up straight. And then finally, flex those toes, which adds a little more intensity to it, but you want to flex the toes up towards the ceiling, or even think about bending them back, toes towards the face. So experiment with your where your body weight is and what works for you this morning. I'm going to go ahead and come forward a bit. I think I'll use my blocks here and just keep the chest lifted and come forward a bit, resting on my blocks, which adds a really nice stretch more towards the back body and in the back of my hips. And if you want to make it dynamic here, you can inhale and just find yourself lifted. Exhale, a fold forward. Inhale and lift. Exhale, a fold forward. May go a little deeper this time. Inhale, lift, and we'll do one more. Exhale, a little deeper, fold forward. And then come on out of that. Okay, it's already the top of the hour. Vinyasa goes fast for me because it's a slower moving vinyasa that I do, because I really like to just concentrate on all of those really detailed micro adjustments that we can make before we really head into a faster flow heart rate challenge. So anyway, all that to say, this hour went really fast. Let's do one twist, just a really relaxed recline twist, lying down on our backs, and then we'll go into Savasana for 2 minutes after that. So go ahead, get comfortable here, lie down on your back, and on your back here, make any sort of adjustments you need at first to just sort of get comfortable being on your back. So for me, that's often just keeping knees together and rocking back and forth side to side a bit. The lower I let my knees drop towards the side, the more of kind of a massage I get along the outside back of my hips. Feels really good. So rocking side to side, and then it can also feel really good to rock the length of the spine. So just kind of up and down this way. It's good core work if you want to rock side to side and then just balance with feet lifted on the rock up. If you are not looking for that extra challenge, don't worry about it. But the point is just to really give your massage and hips, your spine and hips, some kind of massage on your back here. Do one more of those. Fall back onto your back. And now in that position that we did, the kind of side hip massage with knees lifted and tucked towards chest, we're going to take a twist, and you can either let your knees stay parallel to one another like this. I'm going to cross my left foot over my right for figure 4. So my left ankle is resting on my right knee. And then you can take it a little further if you want with eagle legs by wrapping everything around one another all the way down to your toes. But I'm going to do this figure 4 and then drop your legs to your right side as you keep your chest square towards the ceiling and your shoulder blades down on the mat. So in figure 4 here, my left foot is over to the right side, pressing down into the floor. And if you want to take it just a little further, you can turn your chin and drop your chin away towards the left, the opposite side that your feet are at. And so this is just a really gentle recline twist. Breathe here. Remember, as you inhale, you're going to kind of lift your belly and chest and may not really feel as much of the twist. But when you exhale, as all that air comes out, you can get a little deeper into the twist. Emptying the air out lets us twist a little deeper. On the next inhale, bring those legs up and cross. Change the cross of your legs if they were crossed. If they were parallel, just leave them as is. Remember to start square on the mat with both your shoulders and your hips. And now we just let the legs fall to the left. So in my figure 4 now, it's my right foot falling towards the left, right ankle on left knee. Shoulders square on the mat. Try to keep shoulder blades touching the mat, even as the hips fall open to the other side. And for one last bit of twist there, you can turn the chin towards the right, opposite side of your legs, and just breathe here. Notice that exhale lets you twist a little further, even if it's just allowing your chin to drop a little more towards your shoulder. Great, let's inhale, knees back up. Give them a squeeze towards your chest. Give your whole self a squeeze. Just tighten up into a little ball as best you can. Tuck the chin towards the chest, which will round to the upper spine. And once everything is all tensed up and squeezing in, we're going to let it go to lie down in Savasana with a completely relaxed body, relaxed limbs, no more activating, no more squeezing. Let everything go heavy and limp. We're just going to take 2 minutes here in Savasana. It's our corpse pose, lying down here. And just as we did in Tadasana, the standing posture, just bring it back to the breath. So we began class noticing our breath and noticing before we engaged with any extra movement in our limbs and bodies, we just noticed what breath did with our mind, right? So remember, just an hour ago, we had to inhale and sort of take in everything we were coming from to get to our mats, and exhale, took a moment to focus on what was to come, or at least acknowledge that there is more to come that's going to be on our minds. And then in that acknowledgement of the past and what's coming in the future, it really brought our attention to the present and to say, I know I'm going to think of these other things. That's what my mind's job is to think about that stuff, to try to problem solve, to be on alert. But right now, I can just notice where I am and what I'm doing that we all share, which is a breath, just breathing. So as you really just let those limbs go, notice your breath. The only awareness, the physical awareness I want to turn your attention to just quickly is your back body. I want you to think of your back body right now. And the back body are all the points of contact that your body's making with the mat or the floor underneath you when you lie down. And I just take an extra moment in Savasana to think of the back body, because we're so usually more aware of the front body because it's where our faces and all of our senses take in a lot of information in the front. So if we can use Savasana as a practice to just notice where the back is and what it's doing, it just kind of makes us a little more integrated, a little more connected with our whole being. We thought about the side body earlier. It doesn't get a lot of attention along under the armpits and the side waist and the side of the hips. Now, just think of where the back of your heels are connecting with the ground or the mat. Think of where your hips connect. A lot of weight there, hopefully, especially if you just let yourself relax. What else is connected with the floor and the mat? Your shoulder blades, the back of your palms, your hands, maybe your elbows, and finally, the back of your head, hopefully also heavy. That's the back body. Be aware of it. Think of the straight line. It's all on one plane right now, and when you're standing and it's not on one plane, think of this moment, how gravity is helping it be in one line, and this is the posture you want to have in standing. Just notice that. I'm going to guess that I've gone over 2 minutes. I have. It's been 3. I've gotten so used to teaching online like this that I've just kind of got the 2-minute mark down in my mind. But it has been 3 minutes, which means I'll take us out of Savasana here by encouraging you to just blink open your eyes. My jaw's pretty relaxed because I talk through teaching. But if your jaw has been clenched, notice that before you even push up from Savasana. Notice whether or not your jaw is clenched and just sort of open and shut it a few times, wiggle it side to side. Maybe shake your tongue around inside your mouth and just notice that. And now we'll do the same with the neck, rocking the neck back and forth side to side. Drop the chin to the shoulder on one side, turn it, drop the chin to the shoulder on the other. Reach arms overhead for a nice good morning stretch through the fingertips and toes. And roll over onto one side or the other. Come up heavy. You can roll over all the way to your belly or kind of from side to belly and just use extra weight by letting the rest of your body go flat and your hands just push you up into a comfortable seated position as we prepare to close. I mentioned on Monday or Wednesday, that I had a change coming beginning June 1st, which is Monday in a few days. And I'm still not exactly sure what the change, how it's going to affect my live stream. For now, I think I'm going to keep everything in place, but I'm really excited to be able to make this announcement. I'm also a little scared to make this announcement because I am totally aware of the challenge of the timing. But I'm opening a yoga studio locally And I'm really excited about it. And I take over the lease on June 1st. So I'm going to be doing a lot of renovating work in the space for the studio in June, starting Monday. I think for at least another week, I'll still be live streaming here with RedPantsYoga. I've really got to play it more week by week to see how it goes. But I will still be live streaming next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning at 8. And then after that, I'm not as sure, but I'm really excited. I'll be giving plenty of updates along the way and making more announcements to come as I have a website up for the yoga studio and any channels and profiles I create on social media, all that stuff. I'll let you guys know. But I'm so excited. I'm so excited and I'm very positive. I know that this is going to be a challenging time, but I like to think that I can be kind of a creative and resourceful thinker. And so I have a lot of faith in that, and faith about the community, faith in the community I live in, and in the difference that yoga can make even in a challenging time like this. I feel like I've lived that example for a few months now on this live stream, and I'm really excited to bring it to my physical life as well, my non-virtual life, if that makes sense. So thanks for tuning in. Your commitment and encouragement and support and engagement with this channel has been a huge part of what's helped me move forward with this decision, and I'm so excited to share it in this way with all of you. So thank you so much. I'll be here on Monday and I'll keep you updated. I'm excited. I can finally tell my mom now. She's been asking me what the surprise is. It's not that she's getting any more grandchildren. I've given her enough, but I am going to give her a grand baby studio. So namaste to all of you. The light and teacher and student in me sees, acknowledges, and honors the light, teacher, and student in all of you. Have a great weekend. Happy Friday. And yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being my people. Namaste. Bye. Happy weekend.